Uh, Let's call the BATA regular Board of Directors meeting to order. Let's start with the pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Tracy, roll call if you would, please.
Johnson Avila,
Here.
Dotson Fritz,
Here.
Jamie Kramer,
Here.
Bill Underwood,
Here.
Brad Jewett, Wayne Schmidt, and Richard Cochran.
Here. Wayne said he was running a little bit, but he will eventually be here. First public comment. Jerry, do you want to be John Q. Public? Sure.
No.
No.
No. He's kidding.
Tracy, I'm not going to have you read the fence because we don't have any. Okay, we need an approval of our agenda and any declarations of a conflict of interest. Anybody have any conflicts of interest?
So moved.
On the agenda, do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consent calendar. Purpose of the consent calendar is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with in one board motion without discussion. Any member of the board, staff, or the public may ask that any item on the consent calendar be removed and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such requests will be automatically respected. If an item is not removed from the consent calendar, the action noted in the parentheses on the agenda is approved by a single board action adopting the consent calendar. Consideration of approving the following minutes. The regular board minutes of May 30th, 2024. Consideration of accepting the following reports: transit asset management plan, correspondence, staff compliments, May 2024 income statement. Does anybody have any items they would like? Oh, Wayne's here.
Yeah.
You snuck in. I was reading. My head was down. If there's nothing, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the consent.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Consent calendar carries. On to Kelly, front and center.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for your flexibility in moving the meeting time back an hour. Just wanted to give some accommodation to our finances services that was on. So at least a couple of people attending that. And I did write a report, and it has been handed out. It is in front of you. Lots of good info on what we've been working on. Just want to add one thing to that. Well, two things really. I had a placeholder for the percentage of increase on our Tri-Transit Day participation this year, as far as the ridership that day went. And I forgot to go back in and fill in that placeholder. So I wanted to give you those numbers because despite it being a pretty soggy day, it wasn't the best weather. And actually, it was the first year in a long time that we've not had great weather on a Tri-Transit Day. So that brought our breakfast attendance down a little bit. We typically put 300 people through the door for breakfast. We saw 150 this year. But our ridership was really high with a 47% year over year increase and more than double what we see on a typical Wednesday. So we typically see about 500 rides a day on a Wednesday, and this was 1,100 rides. So it's a great indicator of people trying transit. as the name of the day implies. So,
Getting dry.
and staying dry. Write a little poem. So then I also just wanted to mention the cybersecurity incident with the county and address the fact that we are taking that and the TCAPS incident and others very seriously as learning opportunities for our organization, and have talked with Paul Clausen, our IT manager, and he's working with Kier and Eric, and just taking another look at our security measures, doing everything that we can to have protected systems. We all know that it's not if, but when, and just wanting to be sure that our management team is well prepped for that occurrence. So I also plan to reach out once maybe the dust settles a little more with the county to see if we can't get the area IT managers together to do a little lessons learned. Here's what to watch for. Here's what to be sure you have in place. Let's work collaboratively to protect our region from these attacks going forward to the extent that it's possible. So just wanted to make sure you all were aware that that is on our radar amidst all the other things that's happening. So, and then to that end, all the other things that are happening, I will invite Jerry to give us an HQ update because we are getting down to the wire.
It is. Good afternoon, everyone. So what we have today completed includes, we had the second delivery of furniture yesterday. We're gonna have a third one, which will be next Wednesday, the 3rd. And we'll have all the furniture completed, installed before July 10th. The boss wash, concrete install was done. We've got the equipment ready for an installation date. We've got a meeting tomorrow with the installer. Landscaping's wrapping up. I don't know if you got a chance to drive by, but it's really shaping up nicely. We had a small solutions installed at the transfer station, which is really cleaned up that frontage. That looked great, including a number of other trees and plantings at the Office Center. And they hydroseeded, finished graded and hydroseeded out there. We've got the irrigation system running so that the plants can grow and don't dry out. The footings have been installed with the propane tank on the east side of the apps. We started the asphalt top today, so it'll be a couple of days to install, and then we'll follow in right at the Apps Center. We're going to leave just an area over where the propane tanks are. That tank, we're going to do that, or that asphalt after we finish some of the other work that's there. And then we'll follow behind with work over at the transfer station. The asphalt top up there after. The UV Sense, which is the air management system, the device and cabling has been installed. Just waiting for the IT server and switches. Then we'll do the test runs on that. And we're ready for final inspections within the next couple of weeks. Our goal is to ask for a temporary certificate of occupancy by mid-July. And we've also met with the architect and the beta team to walk the site, walk the building, did what we call a punch list, just looking for all the details that need to be finished up. So that'll be handled by Kristen. For upcoming work, we still have some slide doors to install, gutters and downspouts, the wall signage I mentioned last month, that'll be installed at the end of July. Transfer station, we ran into a hiccup with the concrete when they poured that island about 3 weeks ago. We lost the pour. Basically, they poured it, it set up too fast, and with the sunshine and the wind, it just made for a bad situation. So they had to tear all of that concrete out at the island. That happened to have snow melt, which is the tubing system in it. So we had to order new tubing, new concrete. It's all on the dime of the installer, but still unfortunate for us because we have to wait for the tubing to arrive, which means we can't get the certificate of occupancy for the transfer station until that work's done. And that ties back to the RDO, which is the report decision order. It's part of the Garfield Township Planning Commission approval, which has language in it that says the transfer station's got to be done in order to get certificate of occupancy for the Office Center. So I had a conversation with John Syke, the planning director for Garfield Township, John's opinion on it is it's not that big of a deal, but when we were discussing this, I also mentioned about housing starting their work. It's conditioned upon us getting their certificate of occupancy. John's opinion on the language that's approved with the planning commission board was that the TC housing had to have vertical construction, meaning literally walls installed. And I said, John, it's not in the language of the approved RDO. The language in the RDO just says that the housing,
It says TCHC must commence housing construction before data may make a request for certificate of occupancy.
so the key word is must commence housing construction. It doesn't say vertical. So I've asked John to talk to Chuck Horn and obviously have some discussion with Carl, the director for TC Housing, and us on exactly what he's expecting or they're expecting. It's not in the RDO. It's not written that way. It's something that came as a surprise to all of us. So we're gonna have a conversation on it. At this point, TC Housing is getting started. Team members have received equipment. They're starting, I haven't been out for the day, but I suspect they're gonna start grading that today. First next week.
They're out there cycling today.
I would think site preparation is.
Yeah,
part of
if you're spending that
construction.
kind of money, I mean,
And they've already committed. So it goes back to, they just wanted to make sure that the housing component back in the planning commission approved it, was going to do their housing. At the same time, we were in the middle of doing our construction. So needless to say, it's
gonna be a train there.
hopefully it'll be an issue. But so that's where we're at. Things are moving forward, getting it done. So we're looking at mid-July for what we call a temporary certificate of occupancy.
We never all got money to speak of.
Oh, gosh.
Thanks, Jerry.
Questions?
John, Jerry.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're still in the
Going, but the schedule's getting tight, but we're there. We're not gonna change the movement date. Still planning for the 22nd. And
That's
Christmas got some work. We'll get it done.
Well, thank you. Chairperson's report. Well, I was fortunate enough to attend on 6/8, the Community Builder Award presentation, which had 17 finalists, BATA being one of them. And I don't know if any of you have been able to experience it yet, but the West Shore Bank Community Room, that's right at the end of Boardman Avenue, is absolutely spectacular. It is unbelievable. That's where it was held. And Ellie walked away as the winner. So that was just so great.
Thanks for being there.
Yeah, well, John saw me photobomb the one picture. I don't know where you saw that.
You had to have a space in it.
That's
But,
great.
yeah. And we're just about a little over a week away from mediation regarding the lawsuit. So by our next board meeting, we're gonna have a resolution of that. And see what direction we're heading or what's gonna happen or put the ball out or arguing. Hopefully it just can be done and over with. It should have never happened. This is totally avoidable. Had a couple of commissioners done their share duty and brought 3 boards together to discuss what we were planning, why we were planning it, and how it's no different than what they had been told to do a few years earlier, expanded forward because of the change in demographics of the area to better represent the people. So with that, I'll on to new business, which is Justin, if you would, please.
Absolutely. I just handed out, before the meeting started, a fiscal year 23 surplus recommendation. Our audit was finalized earlier this year. You can see from the calculation on the sheet that there are figures that were pulled from each page. The unrestricted net position, the total board designated funds, taking those into consideration, we had a balance of about $5.5 million unreserved. And in terms of taking into account our cash management policy, which was recently revised in May of 22, we should not carry more than 30% of our eligible expenses carry forward into reserve. So based on those calculations and the fiscal year 24 board approved eligible expenses, our target not to exceed is $3,584,931. So with the excess balance of $2,579,695 and taking in what we have available in our operating reserve, the recommendation today is to move $500,000 into the operating reserve, which had a balance of $2,723,189, bringing that up to $3,323,189, and the remaining $2,079,695 to the capital fund reserve, bringing that balance to $7,430,008. We are earning still just under 5.4% on average on all of those funds. So we are just, we're continuing to collect and mount interest as we move forward. So,
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
is there any pension liabilities or any weird quirks, OPEB after last night's budget?
I was going to say
the comment I'm going to make.
I'm going to be calculating that as we move a little bit closer. But I know last year's was about 400,000, but I'm going to be taking a look at that very soon before the end of the year.
So we can just, so we're going to keep some of that if
We can, yes.
So I'll just say that we have overfunded our pension, and to remain at 100% or slightly over 100%, for years
we
now.
don't have any healthcare
And
liability.
we don't have healthcare liability because we don't have.
I was just trying to remember all this.
Right. So we're in good shape, but as a practice of staying in good shape, we want to make a lump sum payment each year to keep that percentage funded status. And so that's the calculation that Justin is referring to that
Okay.
that we'll make before the end of the fiscal year and make that payment.
Cool.
The original motion on the agenda today was to do a 50-50 split, but after redoing the calculations and realizing that we were going to exceed board policy of 30%, this is the new recommendation that is made.
Okay, so do I have a motion to approve the recommendation?
So move.
Second.
Surplus?
Okay.
I have support. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Justin, back to you again.
All right. So the procurement policy that you see in the packet today has been updated by Sean, our procurement specialist. Basically what he's done is he's gone through the FTA's contractor's manual to look at how they're going to perform our triannual audit, which we're going to be subject to every 3 years, and use that as guidance. He used also, he's taken a look at other agency procurement policies, kind of compared them to what they have and see what has already been approved by the FTA, to try to make sure that ours has the same language, some of the same items in it as well. And then he's also updated some of the thresholds now that we're following federal thresholds rather than state, now that we're a direct recipient of the FTA. And so today we're asking for
Point of discussion for, when you make a change like this to a policy that I believe we approved this policy a year or two ago, okay? You should provide a redline version so we see the changes. I have no idea what changed except for what you just said.
right.
Very uncomfortable for me,
Okay.
okay? So,
John, I think what I would recommend, and what you're referring to as an MDOT procurement policy that we adopted in 2019.
Is that different than this one then?
This supersedes the MDOT policy.
Okay.
And I think
So there isn't a change.
it's, right, I mean, I think what we need, if it didn't get put in here, which we did discuss, but timing may not have lined up to get it added, is a statement at the end of this policy that says, or at the beginning, that says this policy supersedes the MDOT procurement policy that was adopted in 2019.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't find it in my archives, the old, I looked. For it.
Yeah, you didn't look
I
back.
wanted to see what he changed and I couldn't find it, so. But
2 years
that's my point. So,
was 4.
So this is a brand new policy, it's not a review or something.
Right, this is a brand new policy to bring us into compliance with the FTA as a direct recipient, as a part of the whole conversion of the smaller.
Smaller.
Yeah,
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Uh,
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Justin, you're just lying right.
I'm starting Jeff, I forgot to mention that at the beginning.
It's the last one. So this is an ACH policy, or payments policy that, number one, we're having a lot of issues with the postal service delivering our mail on time to our members. And it's impacting especially a lot of the vendors that charge us interest and late fees and things of that nature. And so I reached out to our auditor and just made sure, number one, because a lot of the state guidance says checks are a preferred way for you to make payments, which we understand that's all in our policies. We've got that part down. And after explaining to him how many issues we're having and how much time we're spending on the phone with them trying to have fees reversed and interest taken off and things of that nature, he said he's seeing a lot of agencies going in this direction. They're going more ACH, online payments, things of that nature. Some of the things that he outlined was just coming up with a policy and making sure that you have a segregation of duties. And then also just making sure that you outline what types of transactions we're going to allow to be made this way. And so in this policy and bringing in the purpose of it, number one, again, we want to avoid having to pay any extra money that we shouldn't owe. And also making sure that we're doing it in a safe manner that, yes, we have a segregation of duties and things are being processed and paid on time. And so some of the types of transactions would be the agency's credit cards. We want to make sure that we're paying those on time. We're not having to pay late fees and interest. Employee fringe benefits. We don't want to have an impact to anybody on our team in terms of, change our, a break in coverage or any of our ancillary coverages. Also utilities, those typically we can have set up to just automatically come out of our account so that we don't have to worry about the lights being turned off because the mail's not delivering our bill on time, and reducing any type of late fees. And then of course, any other time sensitive invoices that we can avoid additional fees. So today we're asking, number one, we're going to be following the same policies and procedures that we do when it comes to cutting checks. The director is going to approve those. And then at that point, one person will initiate, the other person on the other side of the director will approve it as well. And then it will be entered into our system as a payment.
So it's just, I'm sorry.
I'll make a motion. Do it.
I'll second it, but it's same thing like cutting a check. It's the same procedure, except press a button as opposed to write out. Disappointing about the postal service though.
Well, they're using a lot of contractors. Quick question, Justin, do you have a rough dollar figure in savings?
Right now, just thinking of what we're dealing with our credit card, it'd be a couple $1,000s easy
A month?
a year.
Yeah, I mean, we chase it, we don't pay fees, we.
Yeah.
we-
Immediately on the
It
phone.
was on the
That's stamped, but then that's
place for this
stamped.
meeting.
Okay, so I mean, that's my next question, is like, so when we're talking about we're chasing it to stop with paying fees, where we're talking about time frame for staff, and they should be doing something else.
How much time would you say you're on?
I mean, what was it today, 20 minutes on the,
At least.
today, and
It's-
probably half an hour last month.
My day job is to push our vendors to pay us this way. I'm like, I approve.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is unfortunate that that's the experience that we're having with SPS. So that way, but there are other ways to operate, and we just need to make sure we have all the same reconciliation and approval processes.
That's all Amazon's fault, that's okay.
We typically we send our credit card bill 2 weeks early and it's getting there 3 weeks after. Taking 4 to 5 weeks to process.
I mean, it's crazy.
That's great. Yeah, that's not acceptable.
No, it isn't. That's sad.
Yeah.
Makes you really.
Well, when Amazon delivers the mail, it'll be. Anyway, another question.
So we have a motion, we have a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Goodness sakes.
The automated planning and scheduling software requisition request.
Yeah, so I don't know if everybody here has met Adam before, but Adam Bevere is one of our operations managers. He's on the agenda on the next item as well, so he's representing the operations team on the request for the automated planning and scheduling software that's been on the by technology for him, and we touched on that a little bit at last month's meeting as well. So Adam, I don't know if you want to speak more to that or just be available for questions. His written request was in the packet.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions if you do.
Well, this gives you, well, it's more like you're gonna make. That's kind of build a matrix with the employees, routes, times.
Yeah,
Something that's very complex.
absolutely. And I'm glad you said that because right now we're slow to react, and this will give us an opportunity to run different scenarios and be way more flexible and able to change based on our ridership demand. So this is a tool that we definitely need to have.
Well, with that, do I have a motion to approve?
What was the cost? What was the cost?
It's a 3-year contract,
Yeah,
so it changed year to year. I think the total cost was about 100,
it's,
103 years.
For the 3 years.
Yeah.
yeah. I know we had to lay out like last month and the month before, whatever we were talking about.
Yeah, 103. And it's 32.5 the first year, 31,750 the second, and 31 the third. Oh,
What's great.
It provides metrics, what at the end of it.
It does, yeah, for our ridership and then it takes a look at our area. So when all of us come up with a solution or we want to try something, right now it takes the operations team so long to develop a plan. And it could be 2 months before we can build that plan, just to make it kind of come together with all the puzzle pieces that you were referring to. And this will allow us to do that like in an afternoon's time to take a look and we can then give either the board or Eric's team, like what would it take to run a fixed route in this area? We can simply bring that up and populate it where if in the like current state without it right now, if you were to ask me that, it would take me 6 weeks or so to say it'd take this many drivers, this many buses, this much, and this will help us create those plans.
It's taking multiple manual processes and automating them into one solution. The other thing that it's doing is it will completely integrate our workforce scheduling system into our service delivery. Right now, they're 2 separate siloed processes. There's a separate program called When to Work that we utilize for scheduling, and then a manual process that we utilize to look at what routes and services that we have. The 2 will be integrated together, so we'll know immediately the scheduling for all of our workforce as compared to the services that we're offering, and they will be tied directly together.
Fantastic.
What's another agency that's used it that you like, that you saw? What was attracted you to this then?
Well, it partners well with our BATA software and our fixed route software. So it really, it links and takes all of that information and it partners with them. So it will allow us operationally to operate as one.
Right, any agency that you looked at that?
Yeah, so
Who did you say? I'm just
yeah,
curious.
here in Michigan, so the Rapid in Grand Rapids is using Remix as well, and then Smart in Metro Detroit also utilizes it for their services.
And what did they, when you called and chatted, what they say about it?
It's soaring reviews of utilizing.
Just curious. Okay.
I want to correct the statement I made with the numbers too, because those didn't add up. That's funny.
Okay. Yeah, I was just
So
curious.
year one is 39.5 because it's got a $10,000 installation fee. That's 39.5. Year two is 31,000. Year three is 32.5. So the other numbers were average.
Ask that on it, I'm gonna guess that it probably, savings will probably bring that in the net.
And just don't make it up in interest anyhow.
There you go, that's a win-win. So moved.
With that.
Interest up.
I'll make the motion to approve that.
Got more? That's discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
The Beta Link service.
Yeah, so I have the job of overseeing the link service, and we've been partnering with BATA now for a year, believe it or not, since we launched with them, and they're our scheduling software and run our algorithm for our door-to-door. Link is our door-to-door service, of course. And here, if you want to help me. So here's where we're at today or over the year, what we've been doing from a high level. Every month, we receive about 18,000 requests. So we are a popular service. There's no doubt we have really high demand. For our on-demand service, we're averaging about 25 minutes right now for an ETA for a bus. If you were to call a bus, that's starting to trend up, and we can talk a little bit why that is. You'll see we're doing about 2.4 rides per hour. So we've got about 2.5 people on the bus every hour on our link service. That's a huge win for us in the link world. Last year, this time, we had our easy rides and our outer zone, and we were averaging right around 1.3. So that's a big difference, and that's a huge win for us this year alone. And then you'll see about 72% of our ridership is pre-booking, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. So right now, we operate in, it's a very unique zone that we operate. We have our in-town or our core zone, which we call it, and then our rural or our outer zone. And so we're learning that it is operating a little bit differently in the two zones. And you'll see here, 53% of all of our ridership is in what we call our core zone. This is this area right here. And then our other ridership, 37% is going into that area, and then of course going home. And then only about 10% of all of our asks are the outer area. So everybody is doing business or in and around Traverse City or coming in and then leaving is what it's pretty predictable. And this shows how our ridership is kind of developed from when we launched in July to a 6-month snapshot in January. We started out about 50% was on demand, 50% was pre-booking. But because of our our popular service, people are starting to pre-book ahead of time and trying to beat the rush, if you will. And so these are just showing our trends of pre-booking is starting to go up. Here's our overall monthly,
Can
yeah.
you just back up for a quick second and speak to the pre-booking and why that's a concern?
Yeah,
Or is that jumping ahead?
it's the pre-booking, the idea is to load as many people on the bus as we can and be effective and efficient, and lower our costs. And I think when we have the pre-booking, what happens is the algorithm or can't multi-load as much as it could if it was more of an on-demand. And that will be some of the recommendations that VIA is going to give us for improving our service and our customer satisfaction, if you will, or providing.
So correct me if I'm wrong. So the pre-booking, it's the software that's creating inefficiency because it can't put two together very well. And I'm hoping the new software we're buying is going to fix that. At least, I guess we're not buying it. We're
I
renting
think
it.
it's because, it promises a time.
It does.
Okay.
And then, so if
Yeah.
you're doing that, and then what also happens is with what we know or see trends with pre-booking is if you book and then decide not to take the ride, that starts to creep.
Right.
So then I drive the bus out to pick you up and you decided you didn't want that ride. So now I wasted potentially if I'm going out into Leelanau County or Kingsley, that time. So
Are we finding a lot of that?
we used to have that, right?
It was a
And
big
now
number. It
what
was
we
over,
did,
it was over 30%.
it was.
And then what we do?
Wasted time.
No, but did we?
What promoted the change?
You see our no-show percentage right now is right around 3%, 2.5%. And that's why we want to start to, we don't want that pre-booking to go up because then that no-show percentage will start.
Yeah, can I add something to that too? So one of the change agent was switching to being able to offer on demand and reducing our pre-booking window. You could book up to a week in advance and we didn't have any on-demand functionality at all, like an Uber or a Lyft. So we, like Adam said, we'd have people squirrel away rides, like they book a bunch and say, I want all of these, and then they'd either cancel them at the last minute or not take them, and that took the no-show and cancellation rate through the roof. Since we've switched over to this type of software, it's improved a lot of efficiencies and people not having that behavior as much.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I totally get that because you can't get anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't get a cab, can't get a Lyft, can't get Uber unless they're like 2 blocks of time a day.
Yeah, not.
And there ain't nothing you can't do. Bait is it, or your neighbor.
And to add to Adam's points too as well, so you can book on demand if you want to, or you can book up to a day in advance. And of course, on demand is the most efficient because the system is seeing rides in real time and scheduling in real time versus locking blocks of time for pre-booked. But what has I want to steal your thunder. But what has happened is rider behavior, okay?
Yeah.
I'm afraid I'm not going to get my ride tomorrow if I book in real time. I want to make sure that I'm getting to my doctor's appointment, to work, to the airport at a specific time. So I'm going to book it in advance and lock it in versus, kind of hoping that tomorrow when I book my ride to go to the doctor or the airport or to work, I get a ride in real time when I want to. So that's some of the things that we're looking to try to improve upon from a service delivery perspective.
And that's a learned behavior that we're.
Well, that's what she just said. She says it's trust. I can't trust that on demand's going to work, so I'm going to pre-book ahead. And then, you'd offer on demand and people start to learn, hey, I can trust. When I say, hey, within 24 hours, come get me, that you'll be there and I'll be on time.
Exactly.
Should be the target, right?
You'll see our met demand right now, and what that means is, like, of our we have 18,000 requests a month. So of those 18,000, 80%, we're saying we can provide you some type of service in your parameters. We would like to, from a rider satisfaction, we'd like to get that above 85%. We want to run between 85 and 90%, ideally, is our future goal. So just checking our assumptions, things we know, we continue to want to service the whole zone. We don't want to do any sort of restrictions there. We'll always have supply constraints, whether it's drivers, buses. Do you add to fixed routes? Do you add to length? What we want to do, and then we have the assumption that what she did all improves the remands. So VIA's recommending that we split the zones in not like they'll still work together, but we split them in how they operate, in how we can book going forward. So our inner zone here, we're going to try to make that on demand only. What I mean by try is we got to check some assumptions with our ADA compliance and make sure that we meet those compliance. You can see our zone right now, we're like, how did you ever create this like this and then not have just more of a kind of a smaller around the city? And you'll see that this goes along our bay line here. So it's our paratransit to our fixed routes within our flow zone. So we think if we can shrink that and make it on demand, we'll be able to provide a much better service in the core zone and get those numbers to go up. And then in our outer zone, we'll have pre-booking. So that's what I mean. We'll treat the two different zones a little bit differently. So if you're outside going in to do either work or medical is kind of our higher end users, we know that they'll be able to pre-book because that's what they want. And then going home, we'll have pre-booked, where then only in the core we'll have it through on demand. And in that, we see a lot more casual use too. So some assumptions then, after VIA ran their simulation, here are some improvements we hope to make with some of the changes. And we'll see, looking at our utilization with our new design going up to, our goal would be 2.7 rides per hour. So that's great improvement. And then our completed rides going up to 420, where we're currently averaging about 355 a day. And then looking at potentially VIA would like and so for eyes like adding more vehicles. Obviously, the more we add, the more we have everything. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just totally, it's an unrelated question. Oh, it's related. I know school systems or people that do school bus are required by law to have so many extra reserve vehicles that apply to BATA.
We aren't required to have them, but we're limited to 20% as a spare ratio.
Yeah, we're required. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah, and these are some, so what next? We did our review with VIA. Like I said, we're going to do some ADA compliant research to see if we can make some of those on-demand changes in the core zone. And then if we can, what we're going to do is educate our ridership. That's going to take a big part before we go to change up our two zones in the fall. But for our system improvement. So it's kind of just a snapshot of where we're at today and our future improvement plans there.
That's good.
One of the other features and functionality that I'm excited about with some of these recommendations is, for example, right now, there a rider, and I've seen this happen before, book a ride from here, from Hall Street to the library, okay? Using a linked bus, which is door to door, okay? It costs double the price and sometimes takes longer to take the link bus from here to the library, where you could hop on Route 2, which is right out the door, for half the price and get to the library in half the time. So one of the new configurations that we want to turn on is, if I'm going from here to the library and there's a fixed route solution that's a better solution, it will offer that instead of a door-to-door ride.
Oh, that's.
Because we'd much rather have you save money, time, and use a fixed route than a door-to-door ride that could be utilized for some other function.
Yeah,
So-
that's a good point. That's one of a big benefit.
Yeah,
And I assume, I know this is a off the wall question, I assume that when we go to the core, which is smaller, that'll be the use of the electric vehicles, so that they're inside basically the city.
That will be some of them, yeah.
Okay.
There's most, I mean, we only have,
Yeah.
right now, we only have 4, and we only intend to have 6, so
Okay.
that won't be enough to do all of the service with
Right.
electric vehicles, but that would be
We're
the
gonna
use
concentrate them in there instead of something.
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
And those electrics are a joy to ride on. They are so quiet.
Mhm.
You know, a regular bus, you're like, if I'm talking to Kelly, I'm talking to Kelly like that because of all the noise, but you just talk in a normal tone of voice and carry on a conversation 2 or 3 seats away.
Well, that makes sense.
I mean,
Just gonna miss the fumes.
think like.
I'd love to do something and stop.
Too.
Question. Timing on the impact here of these results. So you start in the fall, when would you see the 18% increase in rides, 15% reduction in cost per trip? How long is that gonna take to implement? I just want to make sure that down the road, because you did a really good job with this presentation, I will tell you.
Yeah.
Because you kept it moving. I wish more people, you must have been trained on this because you did a really good job.
Yeah.
Even they go, when somebody trained you, it was awesome. It kept my interest. But the
Yeah.
thing is, I want to see 6 months after you implement this, does this happen? Because so many times we don't follow through on to see what was presented here, now really what did happen. So when do you think would be a good time to do a check back to see if these numbers are real?
Well, I'd look to Kelly, I mean, I think if the board would like a 6-month, I mean, we'll be happy to.
I'm asking you, when do you think it's gonna take?
Well, I hope we see improvements within a month. I mean, that's
Well,
the goal, right?
Yeah.
If you see something, bring it back in 2 months.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I just think, I'd love to see the actual.
Let's see how some goes, yeah.
But I think the important thing is like where the improvements we've made already, if we see any trends where we're headed back to negative return, then we can check and adjust and change
Yeah,
in a different way, because of you all improving the remix, we can look at that now and better approve our operation or change up.
okay.
Well, let's see it in August.
Well, we're not making changes
Oh,
until
until fall.
the fall. The fall, and
Give them a year.
Way too excited about that. I know, it is exciting.
Come
Next spring, we would have good numbers to say, okay,
Yeah.
look at, here are some trends that we're seeing, we're improving this area.
I can't imagine this.
Wait, the leaves will change color on me.
yeah.
on.
Tracy, will you need to go for the April meeting of 25 to?
I like it.
Yeah.
Good point.
Well, you did
Yeah,
a nice job, it's, you know,
yeah, let's.
yeah, real nice job.
Thanks, Evan.
Yes, thank you, Ed. Second public comment, I don't see John Q out there. Director's comments and announcements on the floor, anything special going on with anybody or anything that you possibly are involved with or Are we all ready for the cherry festival? Is
Yeah.
everybody gonna get down there, get to the beer tent?
The interlocking thing, you kind of didn't say anything about it, so you didn't know, but I
Yeah.
thought that was really awesome.
Yeah,
You know,
that's
you're gonna
bad.
take drinking people off the road, number one, from a safety perspective. That's really cool that you're gonna be able to, you know, it's, yeah. So only 5 concerts, and how many do they have in the summer?
They have between 15 and 20. What they identified were the ones that were sold out and the highest trafficked ones.
Okay.
That they wanted to start with and pilot with first.
Yeah.
So,
This is our first year back from since COVID.
Since COVID.
Yeah. 'cause
Oh, you should do this
we used to
before?
do this.
Oh,
Yeah.
well,
we
you
did this
know that.
Yeah.
Are you
pre-COVID.
doing it tonight? That's what I wanna know.
It's
It's a-
Casey and the Sunshine
That's,
Band.
that's gonna be my comment. I do have 4 free tickets to Casey and the Sunshine.
That's the
Band.
big-
I wanted to see the violin.
Oh, I bought mine yesterday. I wish I'd have known.
I would take those in.
You can let me know after the meeting if you want, because
Hey, we saw Jason Isbell last night.
Him.
That was absolutely, the thing is, there's not a bad seat.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a great spot.
And now and I don't know how long ago they did it, but to the, when you're facing the stage over to the left, they used to have that area that was just kind of open, people without tickets would just bring in chairs and you actually, well, that's a beer patio now.
Right. I started that last year.
And I was like, and I took my son with me, and he had never been to one there, and he is so sold on it now. It's like, well, yeah, you guys support it.
It's a great place to have.
Yeah.
I wanted to see the violin fountains, but I was out of town.
It was a good show. It was like we were in high school again. I mean, it was like a flashback.
Since
That's it.
86, so.
It was like a flashback.
Yeah.
They were good.
I
They
won't
did
mention
really
how
well.
old I was in '86.
Thanks. Thanks, Randy. I'm just, I'm moving along with my.
I have to. You're Jack's friend. That just leaves you open for.
Yeah.
Things happen.
Time.
Yeah.
It's,
So motion to adjourn.
Made.
We're done.
Hey, good job.